Good morning. This is Bill from Auto House of Naples on what has to be the most horrible, humid, miserable, rotten, crappy day of the year. I mean, it is beyond words. I'm going to try anyway, but it really is beyond words. I'm out here. I took photos of this car this morning. By the way, it's a 1976 Oldsmobile. Get into that in a minute. My glasses are fogged up. I'm dripping. I feel like I've just jumped in a swimming pool. It's just not fit for human living. I don't know why back in 1973 or whatever the hell it was, my parents decided, oh, we're going to leave, wonderful Chicago with its fantastic weather and lovely, safe streets and come down to this swamp, Naples, Florida, which is fit for living only about 5 months out of the year, and we're going to live there year-round and inflict this on our child who has the genetic tendencies to be in an icy cold place. And forever after, I'm suffering. I've tried to go away. I mean, I've moved places. I was in North Carolina for a while. I lived in Ireland for a while, which was fantastic because of the cold weather. I tried setting up in a few different places, but something about Naples just calls you back. And you've got a base where you grew up, a way to network and make money and that sort of thing. So, there it is. I ended up back here through a variety of circumstances, and here I am now complaining. So I probably should just get into the car. This may be, and I'm not sure that it isn't, the first Oldsmobile that I've done in like the last 4 years. And we may have had another one, but I'm not sure, and I don't think so. Might have been a Cutlass a while back. Anyway, Oldsmobile is kind of a fascinating company. It's now defunct. GM got rid of it in 2004, which I think was a crime against humanity. It was formed by a guy named Ransom E. Oldsmobile. Well, not Oldsmobile. That would be something. Ransom E. Olds, born in America, a very industrious and entrepreneurial guy. He built his first car, he says, in like 87, a steam car. Also built a gas and electric car, so he's said to be the first guy to have built all three. I don't think Mercedes built a steam engine. Maybe they did, who knows. But anyway, by forming Olds in the 19th century, it became one of the oldest car companies in the world. It was well over 100 years old when it was put down in 2004. I think Tatra, Mercedes-Benz, Peugeot, that might have been it in terms of companies that were older. But anyway, he started building cars. There's some stuff that went on. There was a big fire at his factory, and supposedly the only car that survived was what was called an Oldsmobile Curve Dash. So he went with that one, and it became very popular. In fact, the Oldsmobile for a Curve Dash was the first car to be built on an assembly line, something Henry Ford usually gets the credit for. But Ford came up with the moving assembly line, whereas Olds came up with just, a stationary assembly, whatever the hell it was. And it worked pretty well. Like he, quadrupled the number of cars he produced. Some guy made a popular song about it. It was called In My Merry Oldsmobile, and it was about some slut of a woman who would get in the car and, feel very loose-moraled. So it was a nice way for people to live back then. And of course, that sort of behavior continued in the large-bodied Oldsmobiles for many, many years thereafter. But anyway, what happened then? Oldsmobile got pissed off with some people in his company, so he left and he formed another company called Rio, which is his initials, of course, Rio Motor Works or something to that effect. And interestingly from that, the REO Speedwagon was one of the cars they produced and became the name of the popular band. Rio was REO. It wasn't pronounced, as an acronym, but the band took it that way, and that's what it became. Also, Oldsmobile got very rich doing all the stuff that he did. Ended up buying like 37,000 acres around Tampa Bay in Florida, and made a town called Oldsmar, which is still there today, and eventually traded that for a hotel or something. But anyway, pretty fascinating guy, and Oldsmobile became a very, very popular company. They sold a ton of cars. For many years, they were number 2 behind Chevy. They might have even eclipsed them in 1 or 2 years, but I think Chevy always had them. But Oldsmobile was very, very successful. And they built the first V8 in America. They also built the first mass-produced V8 in 1949, the Oldsmobile Rocket. And that's when their badge changed to a Rocket. And that engine went on for many, many years to become kind of a, staple in the domestic automotive industry. And people really liked Oldsmobile, but they probably saw their heyday, believe it or not. All the great cars, the Cutlasses, the 442s, that sort of thing. But man, in the 80s, they were everywhere. People just loved buying Oldsmobile. It was like the official car of the middle class in America. If you remember the movie Fargo, it was about, Tan Sierra. The Oldsmobiles were just everywhere, and that's where I kind of remember them the most. So, but anyway, what can I tell you about this one? This is a '76 Oldsmobile 98 Regency, and it sold extremely well when it came out. 98 isn't really what it seems to be. It means Series 90 with an 8-cylinder. That's where that came from. And that it did have. And in fact, this was the last 455 engine used in Oldsmobile history. 76 was it. After that, the downsizing all started to occur. And I'll tell you what interests me about this car the most. I'll tell you why. Here's the thing. So this car would have been designed in the late 60s on the GM C-body platform. It was before OPEC. It was before emissions. It was before, all the stuff that made cars get crappy and small and weird. Even though that did happen to this generation in its lifetime. It was in the middle of the gas crunch. But the design of the car was before all that, and it was the ultimate expression of American excess. I mean, it was enormous. This thing is enormous. It's like 2 feet longer than that Crown Victoria we did the other day, and much, much wider. You could fit 6 people, and you put 6 people in that Crown Vic, they're going to fit, but they're going to be tight. You put 6 people in this 2-door coupe, they're actually going to be pretty friggin' comfortable. And to me, that's just very, very cool. And I have to say that this was the last unashamedly American series of cars, whatever, the Tornado, the 98, the Coupe de Ville, the Buick Riv, these sorts of things were kind of the last unashamedly giant American tanks to go down the road. This thing weighs almost 5,000 pounds, and man, do you feel that in the way that it drives. Anyway, let's just get into it. I do love these, though. There's my rag disappearing. Oh, God, I also like that vinyl half top on the car. I think that's very cool, but let's get this up. So we get our little key in here. There you see the unleaded fuel only. That's part of that stuff that came in. Anyway, there is a cavernous trunk in this car. Absolutely cavernous. You see a full-size spare tire up there. I've got donuts for the guys. It's Friday, so they're going to get those. We do have the original mats for this car. I made a point of telling Dalton, the detailer, give them very gentle cleaning, put them back in the trunk because they're important for the photos and the videos. So, of course, he didn't. Dalton will deprive a car of just about everything. It can come in with mats, books, window stickers, keys, engines, doors, and he details it, gives it to you to take home. You don't think about checking, and all of that stuff is then piled up next to his detail bay. We're probably going to have to get a big storage unit just to store all the crap that he leaves out of the cars that we forget to put back in. Anyway, the size of the trunk is fantastic, so you're talking about 6 passengers and buckets of trunk space. Again, it's just what America is all about, certainly in this era. You see the 98 badging on the back. Oldsmobile, kind of one of the last companies to keep going with the tail fins, them and Cadillac. They're certainly more muted by this point, but there they are. Also sort of the sunk-in chrome taillights that kind of resemble maybe the thrusters on a jet or a rocket. That is, again, what Oldsmobile is all about. These small little reverse lights on either side of the plate. And, of course, my favorite little thing, the gas cap right the filler neck behind the license plate. Just think that's very cool. Also, the little notches in the bottom of the bumper. That's where the jack would go to lift the car up because the bumpers were bolted very hard to the frame and are essentially structural. Have a look under this hood. Getting this thing up one-handed should be fun. Love the hood ornament with the rocket in it, and more so than the hood ornament, I love what we're going to find under here. God, that's heavy one-handed. There is the last Oldsmobile 455. I don't know that this one actually was a rocket. I think the guy who owned this last put that sticker on. I don't think that's what it came with, but I love it, and I'm going to see it left on there. It's got the metallic blue block. They went through a variety of different colors over the years, and this is the era just before they went to basically a corporate GM engine, and that was a very weird time for people. It's not like it is today where people don't really think about it. Back then, a guy bought an Oldsmobile or a Cadillac not just because he liked the car, but because he liked their engines. The Oldsmobile 455 is one of the most elegant V8s ever made. Smooth, torquey, lovely, reliable. A guy gets addicted to having that 455, and he wants it, when he buys a car. So it was a big deal and problematic for GM when they went to this corporate thing where, Olds was pretty popular in their car. The 307 went across a wide variety of GM, Chevy, Buick, that sort of thing. But gone was the 455. You can see how nice and clean it is under here. It's got the big Frigidaire compressor there, lovely. Nice big power brakes, everything clean and proper. Hood sponge is intact, and just looks terrific. And what a fantastic engine. You can identify Oldsmobile engines more or less by that big, tall, stand-up oil filler cap they have. When you look at a small block Chevy, generally you just have to fill them up through the valve covers. Not so on an Oldsmobile. Oh, God, get that thing down. The springs in this car. God, they're like the suspension on a Oldsmobile Sierra from the 80s. Lovely chrome bits in the mirror. I'm dripping water down the side. I love the fender skirts. I love the big slab sides. It's got the world's most giant Landau window in the top there at the back. White walls that Dalton did a shitty job cleaning. Lovely, very simple looking caps with the 98 logo on them. Lovely chrome around everything. Look at this, the width of this A-pillar. It's like a chopstick. When you're sitting in this thing, it does make you feel like you're in some sort of an airplane in terms of having this almost wraparound windshield. The 98 badging at the back, the script. You've got your Regency script here, that being the upscale option package. And it was widely thought that these cars were a tremendous bargain from the 1971 to 1976 range, and that's why they sold so many of them. They were basically Cadillac style and luxury for a lot less than a Cadillac. In fact, let's open it up on the other side. The twin grille, that's an Oldsmobile feature going back a ways. And those big holes in the bumper for the air, that's also part of Oldsmobile's legacy of having sort of a jet raw intake that they played up that whole rocket thing. I love the way the rockers curve down and then come out for the skirts. There's just a beautiful design to this car that's very, very subtle, almost Germanic. Here you can see, I love this badge. Let's see, interior by Fleetwood, body by Fisher. And of course, that all harkens to when car companies just basically built chassis, and then other companies, coach builders, would put their finishing touches on them. I think that's just really cool. Love it. Love that little chrome thin thing. Okay, the Olds 98 Regency interior was a wonderful thing unto itself. I mean, it's got this beautiful crushed velour. It looks like the living room couches at the time in the 1970s, and was just as comfortable. And people loved it. I mean, they absolutely loved it. All the button tufted stuff with the piping. You get this little thing to get in the back seat, and there you've got this tremendous amount of legroom, deep pile carpeting. Your Canadians are going to be very, very chipper back there. In fact, like we said, they may start reproducing. You can see it's got some sort of fancy script on that center armrest, and pillows for your rump. They've got these great little pockets at the backs of the seats. This is hard to do one-handed, but what a nice place to put a small compact machine gun, maybe an Uzi, maybe a MAC-10. Lovely. Otherwise, I guess you could put maps and accoutrements in there, but tremendously cool storage on the back seat of this thing. The door panel, you get into more of this stuff with the wood trim and the weird flowery bits. It's just amazing. Carpet there. This has a little bit of cracking going on around the window. It's a shame. That comes from the big heavy door getting closed a bunch. I'm exploring having that repaired, so it may well end up being fixed, but I didn't want to hold up the car for that because I just love this thing and wanted to share it. Also like the big tufted button thing on the door panel. All that was special to the 98 Regency. Let's get in and get some air going. And stop dripping. Alright, very standard way to do that. Give it a squirt. There's a 4-barrel carburetor in this thing. Rochester Quadrajet. Exactly what I want to have on my 455. Let's get some AC. This was so nice to get in this car when I bought it and found the AC worked right away. A couple of the others we had to convert. It was weak. Not this thing. It was just going strong right from the get-go. Put on a Norm fan for a second. Okay, here you can see this lovely laid out dashboard. First of all, you have this tiny, thin, lovely steering wheel with over-assisted power. It's got all this nice sort of wood and, soft vinyl in there with the Oldsmobile logo. Nice horn. You've got a tilt column. Lovely little chrome buttons. You've got, you got my glasses on. What's that? This is how you set your cruise control here. You got your big column shift. That 455 is mated to a Turbo Hydra 400 automatic, 3-speed, one of the most bulletproof automatics ever built. Incredible transmission that just loves going down the road. And it actually got pretty good gas mileage for a 455 with a 3-speed. Something like 17 or 18 on the highway, which, by today's standards may be crappy, but in 76 with a big block and a 3-speed, it was pretty impressive. Here you can see you've got your light switch, you've got your cruise control, you've got your Tempermatic climate control system here. Very, very nice. Your wipers, they all work great, and they're hidden behind the cowl, which is nice. Over here, the factory radio is still in the car, and it has a feature that I love. When you turn it on, you get that little stereo glow thing behind the dial. What do we got? The Romantics. Good enough. But anyway, that's, I think, a cool, very 70s looking feature. I remember playing with these old silver 70s stereos back then, and I loved seeing the way the little lights would come on. I also like the way the lights work and like the rear defog there. That's an illuminated switch with a chrome cover and a little window on the end of it, and it just looks cool when you do that. Surprising the radio works so good. Wish I could say the same for the clock, but it seems to be frozen in time. I'll have a look at that, but who knows. Very cool sort of integrated dashboard glove box there. You can see it's quite large. Another nice spot for you, but a very large revolver 3 in there, no problem at all. There's the original books. You see it's red, white, and blue because, of course, 76 was the bicentennial. Nice little thin mirror. I don't know. God, I just love these cars. I just absolutely love them. And nobody can complain about the motor in this thing. I mean, a 455 Olds is one of the best ever. This is not the, okay, you could say, yeah, they've added a converter. In fact, it does. Look at that. I thought that was kind of neat. The guy never pulled off this catalytic converter warning thing about using unleaded gas. Back then, you used to go to your local muffler shop and you'd pay the guy, like, we had a guy named Cookie in Naples, and you'd pay him like 20 or 30 bucks, and he'd hack off the converter, put in a test pipe, as you'd call it, and then you'd start running the thing on regular gas. Underneath this thing, 32,000 miles, still has the converter, so the guy never did that, which is good for now, but yeah, back then I probably would have done it. All right, I'm going to pull out and I'm going to pause it again because of that sun through the windshield, although I would point out that I did clean this front windshield today. And even though it's sunny, you can see there's not, enough DNA on here to constitute a crime scene. So maybe I could show Dalton how to clean a goddamn window for once. But I'm going to pause it. We'll take it up again when I turn right up the street. All right, so that's better. So there's the torque of that 455 coming into play. Again, the car weighs 5,000 pounds, so it's not what I would call an absolute rocket ship. I mean, you put this in a lighter weight Cutlass and it becomes a little bit more special. But even in this big car, and even with the emissions restrictions of the late 70s or the mid 70s that, you know, sort of detuned this car from its original 350 horse or so down to about 200, it's still ups and moves. Actually, that's not entirely fair, because in 71, that 350 number, whatever it was more of a gross horsepower, and after 72, they started making it net horsepower, and that would have changed the same engine's horsepower rating quite significantly. So, still a very peppy V8 under the hood of this thing. God, and it just floats. You know, those Coupe de Villes and the Eldorado, they have the same lovely floaty thing, but they're missing like 1,500 pounds that this thing has. I mean, in 76, SUVs were crap. They had little small blocks. They weren't that potent. If you wanted to tow a boat or a family trailer or something across the country, you did it in a big full-frame, big block Oldsmobile like this, or, you know, a custom cruiser, one of those Vista cruisers. This was much more of a tow vehicle than any SUV at the time. This was what America towed with. Full frame, big block, you know, turbo hydra 400. You could get it with a bigger differential in the back and cooling and that sort of thing. And that is how people drag their stuff around. I know I haven't mentioned the birds lately or any of that. I mean, I'll tell you what it is. That street, now that I'm filming at Peter's place, I drive down there in the morning. There's deer, and they look carnivorous to me. There's rabbits. There was a family of raccoons this morning, all running across the street. Rabbits everywhere. Then I pull in his place. I know there's goats. I know there's chickens. I know there's all of these lethal animals everywhere, and birds in the trees. And I just sort of compartmentalize it. I squash it way down. Because if I let it, you know, up near the top of my consciousness, I'd probably start freaking out a little bit. So, you know, they're maybe out of sight, and but never out of mind, and that's you know, something I have to keep with me. Anyway, what a car to drive. I can't tell you how comfortable it is to sit in this, basically this couch. You know, I've got room for 3 guys next to me. Hopefully that roller skating girl from yesterday would be nice, or 2 or 3 of her. That was 2 days ago. You know, the steering, perfection, incredible. This car is maybe a little bit more responsive than some of the comparable Coupe de Villes. I think Oldsmobile tightened it up a little bit. You know, the suspension is obviously still Cool Whip, but it's not bad. You know, you could have a 70s police chase in this thing with a lot of squealing tires and hubcaps rolling off the car, but you could still do it, and it'd be kind of fun. Oh boy, I do love this thing. Anyway, so there it is, 1976 Oldsmobile 98 Regency Coupe. This is a very special car, 32,000 miles, all original. Just absolutely lovely in every way. There's a cop, hopefully he doesn't come after me. And a lot of fun to drive, a lot of fun to own and collect, and just a very neat piece. And being, you know, that 455 just gives it a little bit of extra joy. And truly, in 76, everything got downsized thereafter. This was the last big sucker, the last true, unashamed, balls to the wall American engineering. This car was designed when nobody had heard of a gas crunch, and it truly stands as sort of the last American car before the whole industry got into a complete shitstorm over becoming more European, more fuel efficient, more this, more that, more the other. Anything but the cookie cutter crap that we have today. So I know we got good cars today, but not like this. This is special. Thank you for having a look. Really appreciate it. Hope it's not too long-winded, and we will see you with the next one. Take care. I do love these guys that haul ass in the right lane. And you know, seem offended when someone wants to actually merge on the highway. God, do I love those guys. And I'm blocked in by trailers and Volkswagen microbuses. Get over. He's checking me out. All right, thank you. Thank you. Very kind. Oh, God. So, I mean, there it is. This thing is built for highway cruising, man. You want to talk about flow of traffic, no problem at all.